Welcome to Marvelous Designer Tutorial Series. In this tutorial, we will create a dress from a default t-shirts. Also, we will learn how to create different sized garments for avatars with different body shapes. For those using 9.5 and up, we have grouped more tools for a cleaner user interface. Please, long press the left mouse button on the tool to view a list of all the tools in the tool group. I'll load a different sized avatar from the library with a double click. This avatar is shorter than the existing avatar and has a larger circumference. For this shirring dress, we will only use front and back body patterns. Press Delete key to delete unnecessary patterns. The body pattern is smaller than the avatar's body. First, let's apply only the 3D pattern position without resizing it. From now on, we will modify the width, length, and lines of the pattern to fit the garment to the avatar's body type. Usually, I change the width of the garment first, then adjust the length, and then edit lines. Use the Edit Pattern tool to select the side lines of the front and back patterns. Press the Shift key and stretch them to the side. The Transform Pattern tool does not increase the overall width, but only the width of the side circumference, because the neckline and shoulder lines of the clothes fit to the character to some extent. This is to increase the length only. Now, I will increase the length. Use the Edit Pattern tool to select the hemline on the front and back panel of the 2D window and stretch it down. Now, let's modify the garment's side line to fit the garment to the avatar's waist and hips. Since the garment is sewn with the front and back plates, you need to make a dot and edit it at the same position on the side lines of the two patterns. Click at the waist position with the Line 3D Pattern tool to take a starting point. Then double-click to finish. Create a waistline so that the line spans the front and back panels. In the 2D window, the lines created are shown as gray lines. Edit the pattern based on this line. Select the Add Point Split Line tool from the 2D toolbar. Place the mouse cursor on the front waistline and right-click the mouse. Since you are entering the correct length, use Split into two lines. Since it is inconvenient to input to the decimal point, we will modify the value to 165 millimeters. Right-click on the waist of the back panel pattern to display a pop-up window. Add a waist point by entering 165 millimeters, the same length as the front panel. When adding the front hip point, right-click on the hip point position and input the value. Right-click the length of 191.5 millimeters, so enter 190 millimeters for convenience. Same as the back panel hips, add 190 millimeters. Now we don't need the line we marked, so let's delete it. Select the Edit Line 3D Pattern tool from the 3D window toolbar. Press Ctrl+A to select the entire line. One of the features of the Marvelous Designer program is that when you select objects of a particular function, pressing Ctrl+A in that function's Edit tool selects all objects created by that function. For example, after creating multiple tacks, Ctrl+A with the Edit Tack tool selects the entire tack. Sewing tools, piping, pins, and line tools are the same. Press Delete key to delete the selected lines. Select the front and back waist points with the Edit Pattern tool. Move the point inside the pattern. At this time, the movement amount is about 30 to 40. Too much movement can cause the waist to break, causing the garment to look bent. This shift reduces the amount of waist, so the garment fits better to the avatar's body. Click and drag the hip point with the Smooth Curve tool to round the hip line. The garment around the hip line looks tight. I will increase the width of the bottom part of the garment. Select the bottom side line with the Edit Pattern tool and stretch it to the side. Edit the hip line to curve with the Edit Curvature tool. The curves at the hips seem to be big, so make the edit smaller with the Edit Curvature tool. The armhole seems to be big, so I'll reduce it. Select the armhole endpoint with the Edit Pattern tool and move it inside the pattern. If you look at the garment seam line, you'll see that it's recessed. That's because of the angle of the seam. I'll adjust the sewing angle to make it flat. After selecting the side seam, in the Properties window, the fold angle of the seam is set to 220. When it is flat, it is 180, so 220 is slightly inward. The reason for doing this is to make the sewn parts look prominent when exporting to 3D objects. For now that we're in the middle of making our garment, let's change them all to the default of 180. Ctrl+A to select the entire seam. Change the fold angle in the Property window to 180. Check by simulating. Let's take a look at the fold angle that Marvelous Designer uses. First, I will explain the fold angle of seams. Since the sewing angle is not set at this time, the sewn part looks flat. Select the sewing line with the Edit Sewing tool on the 2D toolbar. Move the fold angle scroll bar in the Property window to 360 degrees. The seam folds inward in the 3D window. Move the fold angle back to 0 degrees. The seam is folded outward. Select Sewing Line with Edit Sewing tool and input fold angle value as 180. Thus, at 180 degrees, 0 is folded out of the footing direction, and 360 is folded inwards in the normal direction. Now, let's take a look at the fold angle of the internal line. Select Internal Segment with Edit Pattern tool and change Fold Angle. Fold angle of 180 to 360 is folded inward, and 180 to 0 is folded outward as the fold angle of sewing line. In the case of the fold strength attribute, rather than the magnitude of the force applied continuously, if it is not strong fabric, it is used as the default setting. You can now also set the fold angle in the 3D window. The gizmo appears when you click inside segments or seams with the Fold Arrangement tool on the 3D toolbar. You can set the desired angle while folding the pattern in real time by clicking and dragging the arrow of the gizmo. The changed angle is also applied to the fold angle value in the Property window. Fold Arrangement tool is used to fold color, etc. in 3D window. Let's draw a cutting line on the garment. After cutting the front and back lines, create the shoulder line. After selecting the Edit Line 3D Pattern tool, press Ctrl+A to select the entire line. Right-click on the selected line and click the Trace as Internal Shape menu on the pop-up menu. The whole line has been traced to the internal shape. Since no lines are needed anymore, select all the lines with Ctrl+A and delete them with the Delete key. We will cut using the created lines. Unnecessary straight points can be selected, deleted with the Edit Pattern tool. First, select the horizontal lines of the front and back pattern with the Transform Pattern tool. Since internal segments that trace lines are often divided into segments for each section, it is convenient to select them with the Transform Pattern tool. Right-click on the selected line and select Extend, Trim, and Add Point to Pattern Outline. In the eyes, it can be seen as extending to the pattern outline. But there are cases where it is finely separated, so use the menu. Select the lines again and right-click and select the Cut and Sew menu. After selecting the vertical lines, select the Extend, Trim, and Add Point to Pattern Outline menu. The reason why the horizontal and vertical lines are not cut and sewn at once is that the endpoints of the vertical lines are not completely in contact with the horizontal lines. Select the vertical lines and right-click and select the Cut and Sew menu. Select the other patterns except the ones to be shoulder straps. In the Fabric tab of the Object Browser, press the Assign button to apply the selected patterns to the new fabric. Change the opacity of the Fabric Properties window to 50 to change it to translucent fabric. Let's fix the neckline. Click and drag the center front neck point on the neckline to the bottom. Select and Edit Curvature tool to modify the neckline. Click and drag the neckline to make the middle pointed. Let's press Ctrl+C to undo before making changes and Y. Select the Edit Curve Point tool from the 2D window toolbar. I see a lot of curve points on the neckline. I'll clean up. Right-click on the curve point. Select Delete All Curve Points menu from the pop-up menu. The entire curve point that was on the line is deleted. Then click and drag in the middle of the line to add a curve point. Select Delete Center Back Neck Point to make the back neckline deep V-neck. 3D window shows the seam on the back neckline. Delete it with the Edit Sewing tool. This time, I will set the rubber band so that the neckline does not stretch. Select the front and back necklines with the Edit Pattern tool. In the Property window, check the Elastic menu and enter Ratio as 100%. If you set Elastic to 100 this way, the line in the 3D window will not stretch beyond the length of the original pattern line. The Elastic menu is also used to shorten the length, but it is also used to maintain the length. Lines with Elastic are highlighted in green in the 2D window. Let's trim the end of the armhole. Click and drag the armhole end with the Edit Pattern tool to move inside the pattern. This is to trim the protruding part of the end of the armhole. We will make a shirring on the front center line and the back center line. Select the front center line with the Edit Pattern tool. Check the Elastic menu of the Property window. Set the ratio to 80. I will create a dart on the protruding part of the armhole and modify it to fit my body. First, create a tack to guess the amount of darts. Select the Line 3D Pattern tool and draw a V-shaped line based on the tack position on both ends. Right-click on the line with the Edit Line 3D Pattern tool and select the Cut menu of the symmetric group. Move the end of the dart downward with the Edit Pattern tool. For tops, the dart tip should face the apex. And both sides of the dart must have the same length. A slight difference of about 1 to 3 millimeters is okay. Sew the dart line with the segment sewing tool. Edit the upper pattern armhole line with the Edit Pattern tool. The tip of the dart sticks out. Ordinary darts pop out like this. Select the Steam tool from the 2D window toolbar. Brushing the tip of the dart reduces its area and flattens the protruding end. I will increase the upper armhole pattern. Use the Edit Pattern tool to move the endpoint sideways to increase the width of the pattern. Edit the armhole lines to curves with the Edit Curve Point tool. Select and delete the bottom seam with the Edit Sewing tool. After sewing the upper line with the Free Sewing tool, press the Shift key, and the sewing line will be highlighted in green, and one N sewing will start. In this way, hold down the Shift key and sew the lower seam according to the length. Let's modify the connection part of the dart to be connected more smoothly. Use the Edit Pattern tool to pick up both ends of the dart and swipe up. Use the Edit Curve Point tool to modify the outline associated with the dart endpoint to be 90 degrees to the line of the dart. When the corner angles of the interconnected lines are 90 degrees, they connect naturally. It also slightly modifies the length of the upper armhole pattern associated with the darts. When you simulate, you can see that the darts are connected naturally. The tip of the dart that protrudes while modifying the pattern is retracted using the Steam tool again. To make the shearing smoother and denser, the particle spacing must be lowered. Change the particle spacing to 5. Select the wireframe on surface from the 3D garment rendering style on the left side of the 3D window. The meshes of the changed particle spacing are shown. It's very dense. Let's set up the fabric. Select all fabrics in the Fabric tab of the Object browser. Click the color thumbnail in the Property window and change the color of the fabric. This time, select the body fabric, not the translucent fabric, and change the material type to Fabric Velvet. The garment is completed. If you don't want to see shadows or grids when checking your outfits, you can turn them off in the Environment Display menu on the left side of the 3D window. You can also turn off the avatar view from the Avatar Display menu if you only want to see your garment only. If you liked this video, hit the like button below and subscribe for more. If you have any questions about getting started in Marvelous Designer or this lesson, please leave a comment below, and we will do our best to answer your question. If you want more information on and where to get Marvelous Designer, check out our website, forum, and official Discord channel in the link below.